What's up, guys? Welcome back to another iPopcorn for that review. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And today we're talking about Heretic.
But I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
So this is the newest film. It's an A24 horror movie, and it was directed and written by Scott Beck and Brian Wood. So that's the movie-making team behind things like A Quiet Place and a little movie called Haunt 65 that nobody really seemed to like. Didn't see that one. But this seems to be getting a lot of positive buzz. So
tell us what this movie is about.
Two young missionaries are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and are greeted by a diabolical Mr. Reed, becoming ensnared in his deadly game of cat and mouse.
So I've done a whole lot of talking recently about movies, and you have not. So I kind of want to turn it over to you and see what you think about this movie, because I'm sure we'll both have a lot of thoughts about this thing. But what were your spoiler-free thoughts about it?
So I might have a little bit of recency bias, but I do think it's possibly the best horror movie I've seen this year.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
And I don't know if it's necessarily horror, as it is like more mystery thriller, but it was pretty. Hugh Grant was fantastic in the movie.
Fantastic.
I could tell that you are a very spiritually curious person.
I think it is good
To be religious. To find your faith in a doctrine you actually believe.
Well, our work here is done.
No, I will go and check on the pie.
So sleep, silent angel.
Sophie Thatcher was good, but Hugh Grant was really the star of the movie. His performance was incredible.
I do think him bouncing off Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East makes it work as well as it does. But yeah, he is chewing up the scenery through this movie for sure. And it is kind of this is very much a three-person movie, because they try to have Topher Grace in there, and poor little Topher Grace don't have nothing to do.
Yeah, no, I saw him. I recognized him. I was like, oh shit, that's Topher Grace. I didn't even realize he was in this. And it's like, oh, well, why was he in this? But
nothing to do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's nice to see him.
Mm-hmm. He was looking like Rivers Como.
A little bit,
or something. Yeah. I don't really know. I think I've seen Sophie Thatcher and things. Like, I think she was in that Boogeyman horror movie we saw last year.
Right.
I've seen her in some things, but this is my favorite thing I've seen her in for sure. A standout performance for her. Chloe East, I really don't recognize from anything. I like the plot structure of this a lot, and I like that it's a talkie. Like, I kind of like a good talkie horror movie, especially when it's like tension building. Because this is very dialogue heavy, but it is well written, and it's written from interesting perspectives. And just when you think that it'll start to lean a little bit toward, like, I'm a Reddit atheist, and you noticed.
In this moment, I am euphoric. Not because of any phony god's blessing.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that in there, but every time you start to do that, like, the girls will surprise you, because it's these Mormon missionaries. The girls will kind of surprise you and be like, well, you know what? Did you think about this? And so that would surprise me. It's interesting to think about, like, why this person chose to have these girls at his house and run this test on them, and how many times has this been done before and all that. And it does take, this is not a complaint, it's going to sound like one, but it does take a long time to get to the pinnacle moment that you do see in the trailer. So, like, the trailer sets you up for what you're going to get, and it felt like about almost half the movie to get to that point of, like, them choosing a door.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, though, because, like I said, the dialogue was really good.
And it wasn't one of those things where, like, the writer is the star of the show. Like, they're just trying to showcase their amazing writing ability. Like, because, like you said, Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, all the people involved are doing a good enough job that, it's not like it's just the writing that's on showcase. But, yeah, really well written. I will say, though, I'm going to divert from you a little bit on one thing and say that I do think this is a little bit, not the worst ever or anything, but a little bit of a case of, like, the build-up and the anticipation for The Thing, for me, was a little bit better than The Thing. Like, and I felt like it got a little convoluted and got a little off the rails at points. But by the end of it, I kind of left feeling, mostly satisfied about it. It's just, I got a little lost in, like, what the message was. But I think I get it. And maybe we can get into spoilers and talk about what we're talking about here. But for the most part, I'd recommend it as a good time to just watch the Hugh Grant and Sophie Thatcher and the Chloe East performances, and have like some conversation pieces here, because this is talking about all the different religions. It's tiptoeing, and it's not tiptoeing. It's stomping
Right.
on some sacred territory. It's asking to be controversial. And I think you could leave... The interesting thing is I think you could leave this as an atheist or a Mormon or a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, and you might... All those people could find themselves liking this movie, and I think some people could still find themselves offended, all those groups. But I think it does a pretty good job of making it where you could be any of those religious beliefs and still leave this being like, I still like that movie, you know? And that's hard to do. That's a hard juggling act to do. There's not a whole lot of score here, right? I mean, am I forgetting?
Yeah, not too score heavy. I mean, there's a couple of the Hollies and then Radiohead.
Yeah, but it's like music inside the
that wasn't
inside the movie. Yeah,
because it is just dialogue heavy, like you said. So there's not much background music or anything, which is good because it like helps the tension be there with silence, I guess, during their conversations.
And it's shot really well. The cinematographer is the same cinematographer that did Old Boy and The Handmaiden.
Okay.
And some other really good movies. So cinematography was on point. I liked how it was like dark at points, but like a warm kind of dark. You can just see from the trailer that it's got some interesting cinematography going on. But yeah, like once they are figuring out the puzzle of the whole movie, there's a lot of like forecasting things in the movie, and sometimes they do that like a few times where you're like, okay, I can tell that I'm gonna be seeing that later. like for sure I'm gonna see that later.
Yeah.
Especially something with a butterfly, but yeah, all these things are a little bit nitpicky. It's just I did find myself, I like the first like hour of this. It's almost like I want to rate the first hour of this and the second hour, or the second 50 minutes. So, but you felt like you had a more consistent, like you pretty much just like the whole thing all the way through? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. I can see what you're saying, but I did enjoy the movie through the whole movie. So,
and sometimes it would take steps to kind of correct where I was thinking. Like I would start to think it was going one way, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll allow it.
Well, yeah, they kind of try to throw you for a loop with all the different theologies and stuff, and like even throw in some simulation hypothesis stuff. You're left kind of wondering because he kind of makes, little spoiler, but he does make the comment that like I hate that I found the one true religion. And it's like, oh shit, so what is it gonna be? Satanism? Is it gonna be? What is it? Yeah. So it kind of leaves you wondering that throughout the whole movie.
If you're thinking about going to see this movie, I think both of us think you should check it out for yourselves. You're probably gonna have a good time with it, especially if you saw the trailer and it seemed interesting to you. It probably will be. You know, it's a good time. But I do want to say a couple things spoilery for the people who don't care or have already seen this or whatever. The big thing, which it tells you in the trailer, is that they're given this choice in this man's house to choose between the belief door and the disbelief door. And so you're wondering for a while, like, what is the deal? Like, they have to get through this house the back way. The front door locks on a timer. Why do they have to go through the back of the house? And it's not just through the back of the house, it's like down because it's on a cliffside, so it's complicated. But you're wondering what's going to happen next there. And what does happen next when they both choose to go through the belief door is that they are in this, it feels like it's a pretty small little trek. You know, it feels like it's just like down to a little room. They can't get out of this room, so it feels like it's not an exit at all. It's just like they're trapped in this room, and a woman comes out with a lantern. She looks super malnourished and sickly and non-hygienic. Hugh Grant's character can communicate with the girls through like a old-fashioned like metal tube system kind of thing, and he reveals to them that this is a prophet of the one true religion, and they're going to witness a miracle. And the miracle is she's going to eat this blueberry pie. Comes up all throughout this movie, but she brings out this blueberry pie. He explains that he made this like any other blueberry pie, but he added in some blah 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 and some blah blah blah, which are poisonous things, and she's gonna eat it and it's gonna kill her, and then you'll witness her being resurrected. She eats the pie, she dies face down in the pie, and a distraction happens. It's one of the few times Topher Grace shows up. He's looking for the girls, and it distracts Hugh Grant long enough for them to try to get out of the situation with some matches and whatever. They're not successful in this really. But in that meantime, they do confirm that this woman has died. But in the meantime, there's a period of time where they're not looking at the woman. And so this is kind of the hinge point of everything, because now they're asked to like confirm what they just saw was a miracle. You just saw a woman revive from the dead. One little other nitpicky thing is that when the woman does like come back from the dead, she gives them her revelation of what the afterlife is like, and I couldn't understand what she said.
Yeah, no.
At all.
And I think that's why he kind of explained, like wrote it down or something and had them read it. And because I couldn't understand what the fuck she was saying.
So once they did say it again, I was like, well, maybe we weren't meant to really understand it entirely, and that's why they had to repeat it. But if they hadn't repeated it, I was going to be kind of bummed about that, because I need some subtitles on that, you know. But she doesn't say much, you know. It's just like, oh, there's no heaven, just clouds, and I felt like I needed to come back, and it's all, none of this is real, or it's all fake, or it's a lie, or something like that. And she does like the shh thing. And so the big reveal of everything, big spoiler coming, the big reveal of everything is this is all just like a trick. He has a woman that's willing to just die, come out and eat a blueberry pie, die, and then another woman that's dressed the same as her comes in and replaces her, pretends to revive from the dead, gives this scripted speech, and she went off script. And said, like, it's all fake, and she was trying to, like, warn them this is all a lie.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, too, I mean, like, it is a very convenient plot device that Topher Grace showed up when he did, because if they didn't go up, like, back up the stairs and try to, like, look under, how the fuck would she have ever come back to life if they were just in that room the whole time? Yeah, I didn't even... Yeah. He's
counting on the new gal to have enough time where they're not paying any attention for her to pull her out. So, you know, a little bit of a plot hole, but I was glad that it wasn't, the big reveal wasn't that there was some, like, true religion that's like some evil true religion, and it gets all spooky like this where you can be revived from the dead and blah, blah, blah. It's all like a manipulation tactic.
Yeah, it's just control is the one true religion, is what he kind of says.
Yeah. So he's basically saying that all religions are just means to control people.
Yeah.
And I guess you can choose to agree with that or not, but it's interesting because you could agree with that, but like it's coming from the mouth of the bad guy in this movie.
Right.
So, you know, it depends on how you feel about that being conveyed by the bad guy in the movie. If you don't agree with that, then maybe you love that. But even like there's points where you start to wonder if the Mormon gal who is stabbed in the stomach or whatever is basically realizing that she agrees that it's not real, but she's just like, well, I think it's nice, though, that we do this for each other and we love each other and say prayers for each other, even though they don't work.
Yeah, but then she kind of has a miracle, because at this point in the movie, Sophie Thatcher's had her throat slit, and then she kind of saves her, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes later. So it's like she would have been dead, so that's a little miracle there from her praying, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And then the last shot of the movie that I alluded to being forecasted a bunch of times with the butterfly, like there's like a scene where she says, when I'm dead, if I want to land on somebody's finger as a butterfly, so they'll like right on their finger so they know that it's me. And then there's another thing later about like, am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming I'm a man? So there's a lot of butterfly things through this. And then the last shot of the movie, and it felt a little forced, but I knew it was coming and it kind of needed to happen, is you know, the one surviving girl has a butterfly land on her finger. But the real last shot is you see there's no butterfly. Or it's left a little ambiguous, but it's like there might not have been any butterfly, and that might all be in the head of the main girl. So you can kind of interpret this. I don't know if you thought it was like, maybe there's only one way to interpret it, but it seemed like you could kind of take it as the butterflies in the girl's head, or you could take it as it was real.
Right.
I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed, but for the most part, I would recommend watching this, and I want to rewatch it and see if I have kind of a little bit of a different experience on a rewatch once I've already seen it, because there's a lot of things where I was like, ooh, if they're gonna go this route, and then they wouldn't. So all that to say, what would you rate this movie, man?
I'm gonna go probably like, I don't remember what I gave Oddity, because that's kind of the other big horror movie this year. I think I'm gonna go with a 9. I liked it a lot, man.
I'm going a little lower, but I'm interested to see. I do want to rewatch this some point in the near future, and I think this is up there in the higher tier of A24 horror movies. So definitely a recommendation. I think I would go like a 7.5.
Okay.
So there were some things I would change. If I was to rate the first hour of this movie, it's almost like they wrote a movie for me to enjoy. Like I was a philosophy major in college. This is my kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
So the first hour was like a 10 out of 10. So it's hard to rate it because I really, really love that first hour. But yeah, 7.5. I'll go kind of compromise a little bit there. So Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, comment down below if you've seen this movie and want to talk about it. We'll see you next time.
See ya.